why Radiant Typhoon Vision is a good card that you should consider playing in Branded. So, what does it do? This card says, draw 2, and then you discard either a Quick Play spell or Radiant Typhoon card. Very importantly, you do get to make the choice of discarding after you've drawn the cards, so if you see a redundant card in your hand after you've drawn, you can choose to discard that. You can sometimes just blind draw 2 and then try and get a target from that. I don't recommend doing that, but you can do that. Alternatively, you can also search for an MST from your deck or graveyard. This can come up in post-side games, or if you main deck an MST, it can also help just having that in play. So, why is this card good? Drawing cards is really good. Draw effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have historically been very limited, or have a lot of downsides associated with them. And Radiant Typhoon Vision is a card that almost every deck can access, and almost every deck can use, because quick play spells are prevalent in every archetype, and also a lot of non-engine cards are also quick play spells. Non-engine specifically are quite broken in this format. Cards like Super Poly or Forbidden Crown or post-side, there's a lot of non-engine cards that can help completely blow out of a game. And the ability to convert engine cards, which always have a set amount of value, into potential non-engine cards can give you a lot of additional value to try and make pushes to win a game, or set up a board that prevents the opponent from playing and help you secure a game. Against Katsune specifically, informational advantage is really big, because them resolving Rotary and Q allows them to know your exact hand and make the best board or plays against it. Radiant Typhoon Vision, drawing you 2 cards, allows you to have 2 unknown cards. That 2 unknown cards allows them to add uncertainty to their decision making. They don't know if you have a droplet or a crown or anything other than that. If they make a board that is weak to Super Poly, they will not know that you'd have drawn a Super Poly off of Radiant Typhoon Vision. You can try and blow them out that way. And this card gets better post-side, because the value of your non-engine card increases after siding. You're siding in copies of Solemn when you're going first, or more specific hand traps that hurt the opponent's deck. And what the value of your engine cards will probably stay the same. Cards like Branded High Spirits or Branded Opening will do the same thing every single game, from game 1 to game 3, but in between games you're going to be taking out weaker hand traps or copies of Food Wallows when you're going first, and swap them out for better, stronger blowouts like Solemn cards. So being able to draw 2 cards can help just really win the game. If you're going first, drawing copies of Mistaken Arrest or Solemns or anything like that can just completely blow out an opponent and secure a win for you when you're going first. And going second, you can also side in a copy of MST and use Radiant Typhoon Vision to help push to a board or kill some of the really stupid blowout floodgates and like copies of Dimensional Fissure. So, why would it be bad? This card can be bad for a number of reasons, but most specifically hand traps. If you're going to second, you want to be drawing hand traps instead of drawing a card that can draw into hand traps, because you want to be using the hand traps on the opponent's turn instead of using it on your turn for the most part. Like some hand traps like Ash Blossom or Ghost Bell can be used to try and break a board, especially against Branded or the Sky Striker matchup or something like that, but for the most part, in general, you will want to have your hand traps in hand instead of drawing into them after the opponent has passed the turn and already set up a board. Another way it could be bad is that if you have a deck that doesn't have enough quick play spells to support it, Branded is a deck that can naturally search a quick play spell or dump a quick play spell to add it back to your hand at some point. So Branded is a naturally pretty good deck to use it in. But if you're gonna be playing a list that doesn't have many board breakers, there's no copies of Forbidden Droplet, Forbidden Crown, Super Polymerization, anything like that, then it could be a card that just doesn't have enough targets to justify its inclusion in the deck. In hand trap heavy formats or matchups where hand traps are necessary, you'll not want to have a copy of this card in your deck. But if you're playing a board breaker format, for example, you're playing Branded in the current format in TCG to Uprising Dominion format, it would be pretty good. So here are 2 example deck lists. I have one for Master Duel and one for the TCG. Both of these decks are decks that I'm going to be running myself. The Master Duel deck list is one where it goes a bit above 40, it's a 44 card deck list, mostly because you have to include cards like Maxi and Ash Blossom in the deck in Master Duel to not lose to the Maxi minigame. So that's a bit annoying. You could probably also include copies of Crossout, because it's another quick play spell to try and increase the count for Radiant Typhoon Vision as well. And in the TCG, I have a 40 card list, which includes 2 copies of Forbidden Crown and 2 copies of the Dear Servant as the cuts I made to fit Radiant Typhoon Vision. There's also a distinction where I play 2 copies of Branded Opening and 2 copies of Elubrate, and that's also just to increase the amount of quick play spells in the deck for Radiant Typhoon Vision. But yeah, otherwise, feel free to copy this deck list and test it out and see how it goes for you.